All right, it's video time again, and for today's study, I'm going to be reading from Genesis chapter 3. Um, Let me read this passage, Genesis chapter 3, verses 6 through 13, for just a few minutes. Genesis chapter 3 and verse 6 through 13. So when the woman saw that the tree was good for food, that it was pleasant to the eyes, and the tree was desirable to make one wise, she took of its fruit and ate. She also gave to her husband with her, and he ate. Then the eyes of both of them were opened, and they knew that they were naked, and they sewed fig leaves together and made themselves coverings. Um, and they heard the sound of the Lord God walking in the garden in the cool of the day, and Adam and his wife hid themselves from the presence of the Lord God among the trees of the garden. Then the Lord God called to Adam and said to him, "Where are you?" So he said, "I heard your voice in the garden, and I was afraid because I was naked, and I hid myself." And he said, "Who told you that you were naked? Have you eaten from the tree of which I commanded you that you should not eat?" Then the man said, "The woman who you gave to be with me, she gave me of the tree, and I ate." Then the Lord God said to the woman, "What is it you have done?" The woman said, "The serpent deceived me, and I ate." Here we see the first leader, Adam. We see him drop the ball in his leadership role. Uh, I think this is one of those key leadership passages where we see Adam, the first spiritual leader of his home, of his family, of his workplace, of the earth altogether. He really drops the ball in his leadership potential here in this passage, Genesis chapter 3. Did you see what he said? He says when God came to him and said, "Where are you? What's going on?" He said, "Well, I was naked and I wanted to get away from you." He said, "Who told you were naked?" And then he goes, first thing out of Adam's mouth is he goes, "That woman you put me with, she messed it all up. She gave me the fruit and I ate it." Then God questions Eve and goes, "Hey, what's going on here?" And Eve goes, "The serpent deceived me. I didn't have anything. The serpent did it." And this continues to today. We see a lot of times in leadership and in our everyday lives and relationships, the first thing that we do when we're to blame for something is we shirk off the responsibility and put it on someone else. Uh, we all want to be leaders in some fashion, whether it be in our workplace or at our homes, or in our spiritual lives, or the church, or however that might play out. You don't hear many people saying that they really want to be a follower. Rather, we see more people wanting to be leaders. And yet, people, even those who have leadership capabilities, they often shirk off the responsibility of being a leader. They want the leadership title, they want the leadership, uh, the way you're looked at as a leader, but they don't want the responsibility that it takes to be a leader. Um, Let me read to you what John Maxwell says about Adam's mess up in spiritual leadership. He says, "Spiritual leadership isn't complex, it simply requires a willingness to take responsibility. Sadly, many spiritual leaders continue to duplicate Adam's mistake by shirking their responsibilities at home, in their neighborhood, on the job, and at church. They forget that while Adam's failure started at home, in just a short time it damaged all of his relationships, spoiled the beautiful place he lived, and ultimately devastated the entire world. And the whole mess can be traced back to one spineless refusal to lead." Wow. If you and I want to lead people, we must accept the responsibility that comes with leading people. That responsibility requires us to not only be great leaders when things are going awesome and everything's falling right into place and people are on the bandwagon just following all the way, but it also requires you and I to be foundational leaders when we screw things up and get in the way of God's plan, when we fail to be the leaders that God's called us to be, uh, whether it be at our homes, in our workplaces, at church. Um, that's when God says real leaders step up and take responsibility. They step up and see the responsibility that comes with real leadership, and they meet the call. Today, I hope that you will be the leader that God called you to be, whether it's as a father, as a husband, as a wife, as a coworker, as a church member, as an elder, as a deacon, whatever that might be. Be the leader that God's called you to be today. Later.